We will now resume the city council meeting. I believe that we had, Madam Clerk, we had
We
closed
had a
to,
recess. I don't think we
closed
closed
to.
the public hearing
Okay, do I
yet.
have a motion to, oh, sorry, the public
But
hearing's
another
still on. Thank you.
I apologize. Brian
No,
Little,
no, I
508
didn't-
Gordon Avenue. I don't have the whole grasp on this raising the sewer bill, and I may be wrong. The lady came up, said with minimum usage. I don't think it's gonna matter. It's gonna double with minimum usage or not.
Yep.
So I just want everybody to understand that if you try to conserve your water, it's still gonna double. So that's just a statement I wanted to make.
Thank you.
If there's no one else to speak, okay, thank you.
My name is Jean Marie Murphy. I live at 120 Woodlawn in Harahan. My neighbors, a lot of them are elderly people, and they're on fixed incomes. And I'm concerned that a lot of people in this neighborhood are also working class. They already have their budgets stretched thin. And I understand that the city is in trouble. I hear all the dire predictions of audits and all sorts of fines. But at the same time, you know, you are asking a lot of people who have very little money as it is to pay double what they're paying right now for their water. And I just think that the council needs to consider that, because I don't think that's going to be a very popular decision. If there's any other way that this money can be found or raised, I would strongly suggest that you try to do that. Thank you.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to close address the council?
Motion.
I have a motion by Councilman Johnston, seconded by Councilman Benton. All in favor?
Yay.
Any opposed? We have 5 yeas, 0 nays. Motion passes. Madam Clerk, can you remind us of a few things?
I'll do my
When was ordinance 1752 adopted that set the sewer rates, that provided for the annual review and repayment of the DEQ loan that we took out?
1752 was adopted on March 21st of 2013.
Okay, thank you. Additionally, we had a sewer millage, correct? That was dropped or
It expired
It
in December
expired.
of 2012.
2012. I believe that sewer millage brought in how much money?
I'm not sure.
Ms. Lulu, I think $225,000. And we no longer collect that, correct? On the
Councilman
ad
Johnson said
valorem taxes,
150,000.
correct?
Correct, since 2012, right?
Okay, I just wanted to clarify that. Okay, thank you. Mr. Burris, do you mind explaining how the city is legally obligated about imposing sewer fees as Ms. Lulu has presented?
When this bond issue was acquired by the city, an ordinance was passed. It's ordinance 1762, I believe. Excuse me, 1765. And section 18 of the ordinance, all bondholders want to be paid back. And so they make sure that they're going to give you such terms and protect themselves in a way that makes sure that they're going to get paid back. And here's what the bond ordinance said. The city, through its governing authority, that's the council, by proper resolutions and/or ordinances, hereby covenants to fix and establish and maintain such rates and collect such fees, rents, and other charges for the services and facilities of the system and all parts thereof, and to revise the same from time to time whenever necessary, as will always provide revenues in each year sufficient to pay the reasonable and necessary expenses of operating and maintaining the system in each year, the principal and interest maturing on the bonds in each year, all reserves or sinking funds or other payments required for such year by this bond ordinance, and all other obligations or indebtedness payable out of the revenues of the system for such year, and which will provide revenues in each year after paying all the reasonable and necessary expenses of operating and maintaining the system, at least equal to 110% of the largest amount of principal and interest on maturing on the bonds in any future bond year. So
What year was that adopted?
that was 2014.
And the sewer ordinance was in 13 in preparation
In
for
13.
the.
Yeah, the sewer
DEQ.
ordinance was passed in 2013, and the council said, look, we're going to review, every year we're going to review the sewer rates, and it said we're going to review it and then we're going to set the rate somewhere around the CPI. No rate can go over 5%. Any increase can't go over 5%. Now, the ordinance didn't mandate that the council do it annually. It was sort of suggestive. It said we'll do it annually and/or whenever we think it's necessary. And apparently, for a couple of years, the councils didn't think it was necessary, so it never got done. My reading of that ordinance, of that 2013 ordinance, is that every time you consider an increase, you're capped at 5%, but you can review it more than once a year. You can do it whenever it's necessary, but you've capped that particular increase to 5%. Here's the fine distinction. In March 2013, there's that sewer ordinance, and then in 2014, you do the bond ordinance. And of course, I wasn't here to know what was in the heads of everybody when this was done, but the bond ordinance clearly intends that there's going to be a rate set sufficient to cover the bond obligation in principal and interest, plus all three of these reserve funds. There's a reserve fund, a contingency fund, and a sinking bond fund, correct? And you got to fund them to the tune of 110% of what the fund should be. Now, later in this same section 18, it goes on to say, however, to the amount that other monies are applied to the payment of the reasonable and necessary cost of operating and maintaining the system, then the rates and rents may correspondingly be reduced if other monies will be included in making the coverage calculation. Now, other monies is a defined term in the bond ordinance. And what this says to me is that first you have to set a rate that has to cover your bond indebtedness, because the bondholders want to be paid back. We would like for all your rates to include everything: maintenance operation, the bond expenses, and everything else that comes due for your sewer system. Set your rate at that. However, if you find some other monies to handle your operation and maintenance, you can do with that as you will, but you will set a rate to cover our bonds. That's what it means to me. Now, other monies was a defined term in this bond ordinance. And you read it and it says it's other money. And it gives, by way of example, an ad valorem millage specifically dedicated to the sewer fees, to the sewer system. So other monies, if there's a dispute about what that means, it would seem to me that arguments could be made two ways, with maybe the better argument being the only other monies you can use to work on this system, to maintain and operate this system and not affect rates, is money that is dedicated to the system, like an ad valorem tax or a grant. And there is grant money, there has been grant money that the city's obtained to operate the sewer system. So what the bond ordinance says to me is that at a bare minimum, you have to set your rates to make sure that this bond gets serviced, both in principal and interest, and all of the reserve funds, and all of the contingency funds, to the tune of 110%. The council has also sort of given its notice of intent that it is going to annually review the rates to make sure that you also have money coming in to maintain and operate the system. So you got those two different obligations, both to service this bonded indebtedness and to look at it to make sure you got enough money coming in to operate the system. The two ordinances taken together seem to me to support just what Chief St. Cyr was talking about. The intent, certainly from what the council did in 2013 and certainly from what the bond ordinance says, is that you're going to try to make this system as best you can self-sufficient. Its rates and revenues are going to maintain and operate it, and it's going to service the bonded indebtedness. Now, Ms. Lulu's given you all these spreadsheets that show that's not where we are right now. There, other monies in the sense that, this is general city revenue is being used to float a system that the bond ordinance says should be floated by rates and revenues alone. So the question was asked, is it mandatory that we set the rates to cover all of the indebtedness of the system, of the sewer system itself? And my answer is the typical mealy-mouthed lawyer's answer. The bond ordinance clearly indicates, and the 2013 ordinance clearly indicate, that the intention both of the bondholders and of the council was that that's exactly what would happen. The rates and revenues would carry the system in its entirety. To the extent that that is not done, well, you've already got one letter from the DEQ that says you haven't funded our funds properly, so you better get around to doing it. At what point does DEQ come in and call the loan and say, you're not doing what you're supposed to do? We think you're in default. the most draconian provision of this bond ordinance is that if you guys defaulted on it, and you'd have to default, it would have to be 30 days to give you notice of default, put you in default. If you defaulted on it, they could come in and take over the system. And then the DEQ would start setting the rates. And I don't even want to go to that extreme. Mr. Martin has said that what would probably happen is that instead of trying to take over the system themselves, they would simply go to court, ask for a judge to issue a mandamus ordering the council to increase the rates to a rate sufficient to cover all of the indebtedness and the maintenance and operation of the system. I think the council will, in its wisdom, find some way to get both the 2013 ordinance and the bond ordinance recognized in the rate structure so that that would never happen. But that's the worst case scenario. That's what absolutely could happen if it got bad enough in DEQ if DEQ didn't have a comfort level with this thing. The other thing you want to consider is that you don't want to, the city's got a pretty good bond rating right now, and you certainly don't want to adversely affect it by just doing nothing with this and letting the problem fester and get worse. Nobody likes to have an increase in the rates, but that is clearly what was intended in 2013 when the council said we're going to review this on a periodic basis, and in 2014 when the bond ordinance was passed.
Ms. Lulu, are there any other monies? We don't have a sewer millage, correct? So that would be, I would think, the other monies, since that lapsed in 12, so we can't apply that, correct?
Correct.
We don't have anything like that to apply.
Mayor and Ms. Lulu, do you mind if I ask here, we just looked at the millages this evening, and the sewer maintenance millage, where does that income go to?
We get about,
If we don't have a sewer tax?
We get about $65,000 to $70,000 a year on.
That's a
that
sewer
millage.
construction
That's
that
a
was
construct-
different?
Yeah,
Oh,
it's,
so it's earmarked only to go for certain things?
yes.
Okay, so it's not sewer maintenance as it's called? It's only for structure?
As far as I know. it's
I was
like
just,
we're-
I'm curious, I'm looking at it, it's .8.
Yeah, it's 0.8, and I know it's
And-
pulling in $60,000 to $75,000 a year. It's not the bulk that we were getting before, because there was a much larger one that was lapsed.
But these taxes would go to a vote of the people, correct? These millages to be increased, as the public voted for the fireman millage, correct?
We could bring a millage up, like the
So
one that we
the
lost. we could
citizens
re-bring
could,
that up.
it could go to a vote of the public, they could be educated, they would know our shortfalls, and they could decide that, yes, I can financially support my sewer system because I'm going to approve this increase in a tax. Is that correct?
We could do it that way, but it needs to be done rather quickly.
And then on
I
top.
was just
then-
looking at
yeah.
that tonight,
And then
so,
on top of that situation is if it's put as a millage, it's a tax write-off, whereas a service fee is not going to be able to be written off.
For the taxpayer?
Mhm.
In the DEQ document itself, which I read again yesterday, and City Attorney Bureau, it may be
Yeah, the
difficult
way
to
I
go
read this
to
is that-
this, is that it didn't look like we had a choice that you could do a vote before the people because it was mandated.
No, it
Well,
clearly
Mr.
says that if-
Explain
no,
it
if
to me.
No, if it's,
I'm asking for an explanation.
Here, no, it clearly says in section 18, if, ad valorem taxes would be other monies,
Uh-huh.
and the bond ordinance says you can apply other monies to the maintenance and operation of the system. That's the last line of section 18, first paragraph. Other monies are applied to the payment of the reasonable and necessary cost of operating and maintaining the system.
Are you-
Then you
are you
don't
on
have to,
page
then you don't
3?
have to mess with your rates. But we want to make sure the first paragraph says your rates should be covering our bonds, maintenance and operation, our reserve funds, and every other obligation of the system. The only exception to that is if you've got other monies, and you can apply your other monies to your maintenance and operation, but not to the bonds. The bonds have to be covered by the rates.
I guess how did we get the loan? How did we get approved for a $4 million loan if we had approved to the
ma-
lender that we could pay it back
You
from
know,
user fees?
I-
Because obviously we couldn't.
We
I-
had schedules that showed that. Mr. Cursell had spreadsheets that showed that we were going to increase user fees like $350,000 a year.
I suspect that what happened was, and this is just on hearsay, I mean, you were on the council in 2013, but in March 2013, this ordinance that increases the rates and says we're going to review them every year is brought up and adopted. And I think, and this is just from hearsay, that gave the DEQ a comfort level about extending the loan, because the loan comes along in January of 2014. So I wasn't here.
I
But-
guess, but on
That's
on the schedules that Ms. Lulu put in front of us, saying that we increase, and I'm sorry, I'm speaking to everyone. If
Yeah.
we increase so much incrementally in the next 3 years, we won't even be where we need to be till 2023.
Yeah.
If we
So
if we
I'm
increase-
not understanding, even if
sure
we
you-
would have showed a schedule to get a loan to say, look, our fees are higher. We're saying right now, if we incrementally go from $2.50 to $5 to $6 to $8 over the next 3 years, we will still not meet what they're asking us to meet to 2023. Is that what I'm
No, that's
understanding?
not true.
When you
In
pass-
2017, we will, I mean, there's nothing left here of 2016. We're talking about
2
adding it for
months,
2
yeah.
months. In 2017, increasing it again by 5 more %, we would have a net revenue in the sewer fund of $11,000, which is not much, but we've met the needs.
It's in the black at that.
Oh,
Yeah.
pardon me. So I'm reading Exhibit 5, 6, 7, and then finally in 8.
Yeah.
In 8, we hit it. I played with these fees over and over again. I did every combination I could think of, residents, commercial, to get it to the bare minimum. I mean, 11,000 is bare minimum.
But if we're able to let the citizens vote and they vote for a millage on this, the fees wouldn't have to go up that much.
The fees still have to go up.
Very minor, probably.
So in your last example here, I'm sorry, you're not seeing this, Exhibit 8 states that it would, the sewer fee, user fee for citizens in Harahan would go from $2.50 to $6.25 in 2017, since we have 2 more months in 16, or 3 more months. And then in 2018, go to $8. So from $2.50 today to $8 in 2 years, in a year and a half.
Correct.
In a year and 2 months.
But if we, in next year in 2017, do what he says and increase the millage, we get the millage to pass, we wouldn't have to go through that.
Yeah, I'm
This
glad I
was,
brought
this
that
is,
up
this
tonight.
is the god-awful worst projection, but we do need to do something because we are in default, and I need to answer the DEQ. I can't keep putting them off.
So even if, for example, if we raised the rates to meet what our minimum requirement is now, should in the meantime a sewer millage be put up for a vote and it passes, then we come back to the council and we then propose changing those rates and decreasing those rates
Right.
back
Yeah,
down,
the
correct?
ordinance says we would look at and adjust accordingly, so that means up or down.
Right. Which is
Correct.
fine to adjust a little bit here and there, but just like Mr. Burris had stated in the ordinance that originally passed, you had a 5% cap. Now we're looking at, doubling.
Right. We've never done it
When's the
before.
next
We
time?
haven't.
Right,
done
right, I
long
understand you haven't done it
obligations, yeah.
before, but when everybody expects only a 5%
you could just have.
cap, and all of a sudden you come over double,
So if it was done in 13, brought in forth, approved in 14, we got 15 and 16, so we should legitimately be at 10%. Or 5%, yeah. So, but we're trying to tell people we're gonna
66.
do 6, yeah.
Yeah, that's on the operation and maintenance side. The bond side's a separate obligation. The bond ordinance says, you shall set a rate that makes sure that our bonds get paid and that you maintain these funds.
But we told people we would increase it no more than 5%.
Well, I'm just, I'm telling you that conceptually, the bond ordinance makes this distinction. It says, you've got your operating and you go take care of that some other way. If you want to pass bond issues, if you want to pass ad valorem taxes, that's going to be other monies and you can deal with your rates on that side, on operations and maintenance. But on our side, on the bond side, you will set your rate to make sure that, we get.
Also, we received this letter back in November. Why are we waiting almost a year to try and take care of this?
I didn't find it until the middle of the audit, going through things and finding stuff. And actually, right before the audit, it was like March, a gentleman from DEQ reached out to me, and I begged for
And there was an
extension.
original request when the former CPA was here, I
Yeah.
believe, for an extension or some, at some point.
Turnover.
Yeah.
Yeah. it-
Like I said, I mean, I'm not in favor of going up this much. I'm looking at other unincorporated and incorporated areas, and we're gonna demolish them. I mean, we're gonna be the heaviest rates in Jefferson Parish. And, I mean, that to me is just unacceptable to go up that much. I'm getting a lot of pushback from the citizens. You know, you had a couple people get up and they were okay with it, but the majority aren't. I got a lot of calls saying they don't mind going up a little bit, but when it jumps this much, they have a big issue with it.
Can I say something? I'm not sure if I'm seeing this correctly or not, but the way I understand it is, it's sort of like this. The city entered into an agreement with the DEQ to make a loan, and the DEQ said, yes, we'll give you the money based on these criteria or these things that you have to meet. And now we're not meeting them. We're reneging on our part that we agreed to do in order to get the loan. It's like going to a bank and buying a house, and the bank says, your note's going to be $1,000, and you say, okay, and you sign, and you walk out and you say, I'm only going to pay him $800. The bank's going to come in and take your house, and that's what we're doing here.
Right, well,
It's not a choice. It's mandated in the verbiage of the DEQ loan that we raise, these rates cover what we said we would cover. We can't put it to a vote.
Right, well, like I said, it's max at 5%, so just like Councilman Bode was saying, is, in essence, it would be 10%. I mean, I can go up 10% because that's what the ordinance states.
Right.
I'm not over doubling fees.
I mean, DEQ
And-
was fine when it's going up 5% a year.
Right. And I think that we should put a millage up for the citizens to vote on it, to compensate for the rest of the money we need.
It says it's apples and oranges.
Are we currently in default of the DEQ loan? Are we not paying it?
No, we've only had to pay principal once, which was $30,000. We paid that. We paid the interest on it. It was just a smidge. Next principal payment isn't until 2017.
For how much?
I'd like
I
to
don't know
ask
off the top of my
also,
head.
Like
It's-
ballpark?
It's like, I'd want to say 230,000, which, we don't have in the sewer fund. We don't
Chief
really
St.
have it in the
Cyr and
general
Chief
fund either.
Walker, this is my concern. No matter what we have to pay when the payments come due, we're going to be facing yet another year of putting a budget together. And there's only going to be one source of funds that I can see, the general fund, which feeds the fire department and the police department and all of our other departments. I don't see any significant increase in revenues. I'd like, I'm just going to ask you to speak then.
Just to answer you in short, I'm in favor that all departments, including fire, should be self-sufficient in the funds that it collects from its citizens. There should be user fees and/or enough money collected in revenue by ad valorem tax that completely funds the department. Our neighboring department, East Bank Consolidated, it doesn't ask the council for money. It receives an ad valorem tax that covers the operation of the department. And I feel that all of your major departments in the city, police, fire, surge, should all operate the same way. And we wouldn't have the crunches that we have. We wouldn't have 2 firemen showing up to a burning building.
But Chief, just to clarify, it's not up to the council to decide ad valorem tax. It's for the vote of the people. And when Chief and I talked about it, we wanted to increase the fire, and I was 100% support behind the 5% for the police department as well.
I agree, but we keep asking for way too little.
Right. No, I
Way too
agree.
often asking for way too little. When we ask for 5 mils, and I told you this before we went out for the 5 mils, that if we ask for 5 mils, we're asking for about 20 mils too short.
Right.
Now, I understand that it may be tough to get it passed, but you also take a responsibility, and I'm not sitting here to chastise any one of you on the council, but you take a responsibility when you become an elected official in the city to do what it takes to operate the city. And sometimes it's that hard choice that you may have to impose a fee if you can't get an ad valorem in order to collect. You're talking about something that is for service. People need to have their sewage leave their houses. The city has to pay for that. Where do you get the money? People want firemen to show up to their house. Where do you get the money? People want the police department to show up when you call for them. Where do you get the money? If we don't pass it by ad valorem, then it has to be by service charge. And if you're not willing to do that, then maybe you should, right.
It will,
I'll stop short of that. Thank you.
and I'm worried about meeting the other city obligations and taking money from the general fund that's gonna go to our first responders, to maintenance, et cetera, and cutting that back.
This is nothing new. This is not a new problem to the city of Harahan. We have always traditionally undercollected what it has taken to run the city. Look, I'm a fireman. I run the fire department, and I think we've done a great job with what we've had. But the people aren't protected exactly like they think they are. I've said this in budget hearings. I've said it for the last 20 years in budget hearings. We do the best we can with what we have. But we're underfunded. There's no way that we can continue. Yeah, one day we're gonna get caught short. And hopefully that doesn't mean someone's life
Right.
that's in the balance. Hopefully it's not one of my guys, and hopefully it's not a citizen. It's going to happen. But we've always underfunded departments. We've never collected enough. I'll go back to what I started to say. I can only speak for the fire department. But what you pay in Harahan for fire protection versus what you pay in the neighboring departments is ridiculous, and I'll be happy to bring the tax bills to show you. Okay, they're collecting a homeowner there for the same home here. They're paying $285 on their tax bill there, and here they're paying
65 or
60,
68.
yes, $62. There's no way. How do we provide the same service? We have the same responsibility. How do you provide the same service? I tell you how. We call them for help every fire we have. Thank God they help us. Thank God they're willing to do it. Thank you.
Well, my main worry, like I said, I don't mind having a minor increase, but just increasing this much is too much. Like I said, I'd like to see not ordinance, I apologize. I'd like to see a millage go out, and hopefully it gets voted on by the citizens, and if it doesn't, then we can come back and maybe look at this, but give them the option to vote on it, give them the option to have it on their bill where they can write it off on the taxes, compared to this, where it's gonna double fees throughout the whole year.
Well, Ms.
Linda.
Lulu just stated that she has to provide a form to the DEQ saying that we're in compliance. If we do 10%, we're not going to be in compliance. We'll still be in default.
Linda, can I bring up a question or a comment too? So DEQ being a federal agency, is there any way to respond to them in writing with some type of corrective action plan where you tier it and we're say, okay, we will resolve this issue in X years, knowing that to put this cost and doubling and tripling and quadrupling user fees to our citizens, we know would be very impactful. Do you think they would take some type of correction action plan where you could tier the increase in costs over several years, not just 2018?
I wouldn't think so. The DEQ loan specifically says that you have to cover the cost in each year. And at the end of the year, when you fill out the form and you show, because life happens, sometimes you're short,
Yeah.
you have to give your corrective action then for the next year. It says the next year. It doesn't say for the next 5 years or 2 years or 10 years.
Will they keep accepting a corrective action each year?
I do not know.
That's an
I mean,
unknown.
if I was a bank, I wouldn't keep saying that.
Yeah. They're not.
I just want to say I am in 100% in setting out a vote of the people, and I believe exactly what the chief says, that, we are Harahan, we should stand up, we should support our fire, we should support our police and our maintenance, and we're taxing you without your approval by slapping fees on top of you. I'm not in favor of putting these fees on top of you, especially not at a 60+% rate. However, I would implore even the chief and both chiefs that we get out and we put a millage back out in front of the people, and that we sit up and we actually support. Chief, correct me if I'm, by not having the correctly funded fire department, does our home insurance go up?
It will.
So we're gonna pay insurance companies, or we're gonna pay to keep our fire, or we're gonna build our fire department?
Councilman, I'll remind you of the statement I made 2 years ago at
Exactly.
the beginning of this term, that if we didn't do X, Y, and Z, that at the end of 2016, when we were re-rated, we would not maintain our rating.
Exactly,
Councilman, we have not done X, Y, and Z.
exactly.
And I can tell you that our rating will not remain a 2. I'm sure of that.
City Attorney Burris, is this sewer fee a tax?
No, it's a service fee. It's not an ad
So
valorem
it's
tax.
similar to other service fees in other political subdivisions and municipalities.
And as far as the deductibility, I mean, the commercial enterprises, of course, can take it off, you know, as a commercial expense. That's an operating expense on that tax form. The homeowner can take it, if it was an ad valorem charge, of course, can take a deduction if they itemize. I don't know how long it takes to get an ad valorem tax passed, but the bond ordinance provides, by specific example, for an ad valorem tax to be the other money that you can use to reduce the rate. So it gives you this opportunity, if you increase the rates to cover all of the things it says you have to set your rate for, operating and maintenance, bond service indebtedness, all the other costs of the system, and then you get the other money by way of ad valorem, it says, then you can reduce your rate if you get the other money. But that's sort of what it's requiring. And I have to tell you, I think the other money language was sort of imprecise, because personally, I would have spelled it out. If you get grants, if you get dedicated revenue to sewer, that's the other money you can use. Don't go invading your general operating revenues
Well,
to pay us.
I mean, wouldn't you assume they did other money to be vague?
Well, the
Because, I mean,
definition.
in your recommendation to us, you say other money is not income and revenues derived or to be derived by the city from the operations of the system. The definition of other money is somewhat deficient in that it does not clearly state what other money is. It has to be dedicated for sewer purposes. Although it gives a specific example of a dedicated tax as an example of other money, it does not clearly exclude general city revenue,
Yeah.
general fund as a source. So I assume for the purpose of this analysis, the other money in quotes include general city revenues that have already been appropriated for sewer purposes, which
Yeah,
is what
and
we
that's-
do
that's
today
what
and
you've
what we
been
did
doing.
last year and with the year before.
That's what you've been doing. But what you've been doing has been inconsistent with both the 2013 ordinance, which says we're going to review this every year and we're going to cap it at 5% per year. That's what it seemed to say, but then nobody ever did anything. And then the bond ordinance, which comes along and says, you know, you set your rate to cover the entire system. You go out, if you find some other money, then you can reduce the rate there, but we want you to cover the entire. And look, that's the mortgage insurance for this bondholder. Because if your system falls apart and you don't have a sewer system to operate, you certainly can't collect any revenue, and then the bondholder's out of luck. So, you know, part of the reason they wanted you to set the rate was to maintain your system with the rate was so that they could be sure they're gonna get their bond payment back. So, you know, these are the hard choices you're put to. I think taken in total, these two ordinances indicated an intention to make this system self-funded, but I think in 2013, y'all recognized it was gonna take some time for you to do it. The problem was, you didn't start back in 2013 doing it.
And it feels almost mandated that,
Well, certainly, I think the bond ordinance language insofar, Ms. Lulu, tell me if I'm wrong about this, but are those three mandated funds, are they funded fully?
They're not funded fully because each month we have to put more money in based upon how much we've drawn down, how much principal we expect to have to pay back in the next quarter, interest. So on the 20th of each month, we cut a check to the other funds. So no, it's never fully funded.
and I personally agree with former Councilman Chatelain that there's a lot of needs in the city that fall out of the sewer, that exclude the sewer, that we have to pay attention to and fund. We get complaints about our street and potholes. We have many complaints right now, especially after the July 12th rain event here, and as evidenced at what happened in August in Baton Rouge and Denham Springs with drainage issues in our infrastructure. So, and whether it's paying garbage contracts, changing light fixtures, et cetera, we do have a multitude of needs that we really do have to address, and to pull from the general fund means there will be other obligations we will not be able to make, is my fear. And I believe our taxpayers have also been burdened enough by a neglected sewer system and an aging sewer system. And the last thing they should be burdened with additionally is a poor bond rating and potential fines and penalties of anywhere from $36,000 to $50,000 a day because we don't meet our obligation, because that will be passed on also. That is an unjust burden. When we first took office, too, also with the sewer, I met with many individuals who have suffered year after year with sewer backup and sewer in their homes. And there are lawsuits now that the city is involved in, which that's another issue that is causing financial strain on our city because of the inadequate sewer system. If you'd like to
Well,
chime in on
because it's in
that.
litigation, I don't want to talk a lot about it, but you heard the police chief
Correct.
tonight telling that, consistent with good governmental accounting practice, when you get the city attorney, you sort of allocate his cost. How much time are you devoting to this section, this section? I segregate out my bills by these topics for budgetary purposes. I've got a few dedicated to the sewer issue. So, yeah, you are going to be looking at liability if things
That's a question for
continue.
the city clerk. Do you know off the top of your head how long it would take to get a millage put on the ballot? And
Mr. Hugh Martin with Foley and Jadell, the bond attorney, he handles, any elections and putting things on the ballot. And he always said to get, like, if we wanted a millage put on for 2016, it would have to be either voted on, in the fall or in the spring at the latest to get it, next year. So the spring 2017 at the latest to get it.
And ad valorem taxes are collected when? At the end of the?
Yeah, well, they usually mailed out the very end of November.
Right, so you wouldn't see any revenue if you passed a millage until 2018.
No, if a
No, you'd
millage
see
was
it in
passed.
Wait, when?
If a millage was passed either this, say if it was on the ballot this November or March at the latest. Right.
Yeah,
Well,
but if it
we'd
would-
have to have a special election. That'd be the only other
And
way to
that's
get
a
something on
cost
their
also.
ballot.
But Nicole, if it
Yeah,
was
that
on the
costs money.
spring election, it could be on the November 2017 or December 2017 tax bill.
Right.
You would see the revenue in
Right, if
2017.
it was on a
No, you will
ballot
not,
by
you will not see the revenue in
spring.
2017. The money comes in 2017, but we're not allowed to count for it until 2018.
So
Right.
it would be in, it's just not applied.
Correct.
Correct.
Can we talk about what happens if we vote this down? If we don't do what we're supposed to do, then what happens? If we only do 10%, say?
Well, we've missed increase in 14, 15, and now in 16. So that would be not 10, that's 15 minimally, correct?
But fines, mandamus, them coming in and taking us over and telling
Right.
us what we have to charge.
It varies, it's probably like an IRS audit. It depends on who you're going to get, who looks at you, what they're going to decide, what the level of contempt is that the city's ignored this for all this long. I don't know, there's significant fines. Historically, in the newspapers, you can see other cities have had problems, and they've been fined up $35,000 per day from the point of which you're in default. So they could go back to us being in default back to the end of 2013 when our original sinking and reserve and contingency funds were not set up by the previous administration. So are we in default as of December 2013 at $35,000 per day? I don't want to do that math. They could call the loan. That'd probably be the best, I guess, is they would call the loan, but I don't know where we're going to get over $1 million to pay for the loan today. We'd have to go and ask for someone to give us a bond. No one's going to give someone who's foreclosed a bond to give them more money, because what is their proof that you're going to pay them? So at the very least, the interest rate, I would assume, would be astronomical, which again, we still cannot afford. Lastly, I mean, we could have a state conservatorship and everybody is sitting on the side waiting for, their job.
And I just want to clarify, this was put in motion prior to this council, prior to me coming into office. So we're basically adopting an issue that we have to address. I don't know that we're not sitting there saying, oh, we're choosing to do this, let's go choose and get the loan, and this is how we're going to pay it. We're now saying, this is our obligation. And every administration has this, whether it was other bonds that we have and that we have to remit payment. But it is now our obligation to say how we're going to pay this. And I just don't want to burden our taxpayers anymore with potential harms from not meeting those obligations, whether it would be in fines, extra lawsuits, and also just hearing the pleas of our residents about sewer backup. I have talked to our residents where they could smell sewer that was leaking out of broken sewer pipes, and concerned about the health and safety issues, that in a rain, the sewer back up. Talking about Todd St. Cyr, Chief St. Cyr, talking about his own children, about during a water event, a rain event, when sewer backs up, kids go out to play in the water, and that it's actually a dangerous, life-threatening event for numerous reasons, not to mention the microorganisms that are now floating in the water that have bubbled up from the sewer. So it is a very important issue that's far-reaching, and I know that Chief Walker was present for several meetings that we had, town hall meetings, with residents about the sewer and what impact and what tragedy it really brought to their lives. So it is all encompassing, and this board, this council has a very important issue in front of it, and to consider what truly our legal obligation is, and also the concerns of the citizens, and providing for their health, safety, and welfare, and not cause additional harm with fines, et cetera, from the DEQ.
Well, my professional recommendation is we go with these, awful increases. We put the millage up for a vote, and then in end of 2017, we revisit and go down.
That's your professional.
That's my professional opinion, because I do not see how I can turn in anything less to the DEQ to show that we're meeting our obligations.
And that's what I'd like to say, is that this is a problem that this administration inherited, and I think it's our duty to fix it, to get into compliance with the agreement that the city entered into and agreed to. I don't think we have a choice.
And upon inspection also, it shows that when in 2013 we adopted the sewer ordinance, we hadn't raised fees since 2003. Then we lost the sewer millage. And even from looking at the minutes of the past, that it was apparent that they increased the rates, but even then it was apparent that it was well known that those rates at that point weren't going to be sufficient, and unfortunately, it was left to this council now to rectify that.
It's fine. Like I said, I'm not against having to go
I
up, but
understand, right.
the percentage rate that it's going up is,
I'm looking for recommendations from the council at this
Ms.
point.
Lulu and Mr. Burris, could we, to try and get in line with ordinance 1752, That was that, yeah, right. To say that we will upward adjust user fees, cap at 5%. And as Councilman Bodier said, well, okay, well, that would be 10%. To look at drafting a new ordinance at increase of 10% and not 67%, to look like in good faith we were following the ordinance we put in place at the time we received loan approval. No, because I'm still trying to get my mind wrapped around how could the DEQ believe that we could meet the criteria of the loan when our law does not state that we ever could. I mean, they knew what our user fees were, and we said here we would look at it annually and more often if needed, et cetera, to increase at a 5% cap. How could anyone believe we would ever meet the criteria?
And you know that what you just said, annually or more often as needed.
I don't know if that's
you
the
were on the
exact word.
council when that was passed, but that's indicative of, to me, of what the actual intent was. The council that voted on that actually, I think, did intend to review this on an annual basis. But when you look, and so some citizen could have come along and said, you know, you're violating your own law because you haven't looked at this thing in 2014,
Right.
and we're mandamusing
Yeah.
you and that never happened. But if it had come to a court fight, that's not the way it would have played out, because the ordinance says annually and/or as the council deems necessary. So apparently those councils never deemed it necessary, so you couldn't force them to consider it on an annual basis. But Councilman Hewitt, I think you're right. That was the intention. The ordinance just wasn't drafted to say that. Now, if you want to redraft an ordinance, if you want a new ordinance that will say, okay, in recognition of what happened before, we're going to do 10% in one fell swoop, because you can't do that right now. Under the present ordinance, you can only go up 5% for operations and maintenance. The bond is a different thing. The bond ordinance says you will set the rate to service our bonds. So if you want to draft a new ordinance, it can do that, but are we clear that it will be an annual review? You will be mandating yourselves to review this on an annual basis.
Doesn't say you have to go up, just says you have to review it at least.
But
Yeah.
that still doesn't put us in
Doesn't get you where you need to be, but
Right.
I guess I'm still at
It's a
the
start.
point of send some type of response to the DEQ of corrective action based on our ordinance 1752, that we would do our due diligence and we would do what we said. Here we are. We will get in line by X date, and we are showing good faith of meeting the requirements. I have no idea if that works, but that's what I would suggest.
Well, are you, I'm trying to just set the stage, or we missed the annual review for 14, 15, and now 16. So that is 15%, not 10, or are we talking about 10? Am I wrong? I'm asking.
The ordinance was passed in 13, correct?
13.
13.
You passed it in
Yeah,
13, and I
March.
think you did a rate increase in 13.
Correct.
And said, we'll look at it
So you
every
would-
year
so
thereafter.
you would
14
look
is
at
14,
14,
15,
15,
16,
16, and the end
You
of
got
16.
15%.
That's
So-
just an option.
And then I
that's
have
every-
one just verbiage type of
I'm
question
just
for
at-
you. On the header, it says, an ordinance to repeal and amend. Shouldn't it just say ordinance to amend? Because repealing's pulling it away, and then in turn, you're amending. That's just a verbiage question I'm just wondering about. And then we go back to what we were talking about. I apologize. Just
Oh, no.
Let me look at the operative language.
yeah. If you need a copy, I got it right here.
But the council can either take this ordinance and amend it with the fees with a simple calculation of 5, 10, or 15% and choose, and then we can, I'm just setting out ideas, and then have Ms. Lulu respond to the DEQ, and come back. At least we will show good faith to have done something.
Right.
I will do
and
whatever
see what the
y'all say, but I think it's a crapshoot, and I wouldn't want to go to, Big Daddy government and say, well, we've been screwing around all this time, but look, we put a penny into it now. That's just my feelings.
But with more of a plan set in place, saying that we're going to try and bring a millage, and if that doesn't pass through, then we will look back at the user fees. But you want to at least give the option to the citizens to be able to put it a certain way. That's my opinion.
So what would y'all, I guess, is there a
Is there a consensus on what you want to do?
consensus on what we want to do? Does the council want to amend the rates right now? Does the council want to vote on it as is?
At 15%, the residential rate would be $2.88, and the commercial rate would be $3.16.
That's really,
I'm sorry, 280.
And what,
And 316.
we had also looked at the rates, for example, Kenner also got this revolving loan, I believe, in 2009, and they had to reset their sewer rates.
15%.
And they had to reset their sewer rates.
This doesn't solve the problem.
It doesn't, but
Well,
it,
it doesn't.
No, it doesn't solve your problem for setting your rates at what the bond requires.
We
Exactly.
understand. We understand that, clearly.
I think the rate increase in 13 equaled what percent, do we recall?
It was a 13%
Right.
increase.
No, it was a 200% increase.
Oh, up to into 13?
It
I
was, in
don't know.
2013, it was a 200% increase
I don't know.
of those rates. From 2003 to 2013, the percentage increase was a 200% increase at that point because it hadn't been raised.
For so long.
And then we also have to remember, we no longer have that sewer millage, that additional millage. So,
And we also run the chance of having stiff penalties that we'll have to pass along, possibly and probably. My guess is they're not going to be happy.
I'm asking for the council to,
I want to vote on it as it is.
Well, I guess that's true. You should vote on it as it is, and then you amend and vote.
well, we
That's what
can.
Ms. Benton just said. I don't know.
We could amend it and vote on it, but that's, I'm just saying
Correct.
that's
There's
my
a,
opinion.
so the options on the table are to vote on it as is, or to potentially amend it. So I've got a motion to proceed with the vote as the ordinance as is. Do I have a second? Because just giving a second doesn't mean that you can't vote the way you feel. It allows for the vote to proceed.
Well, I've heard from 4 council members. I'm not sure how Councilman Wheeler feels about it. I'm sorry if I missed, but it sounds as if 3 council members want language change, and maybe it's deferred and amended, because
You know,
I am not in favor of how it stands tonight. I think I've been very clear on that.
No, and I had made it
That's
clear
why I was
previously
asking for a
before
motion.
that this came up, was I don't think anybody in the council is not favor for an increase. I think it's the amount of the increase at one lump sum.
I think we all wish there wasn't an increase.
Well, I know, but Tina, you know, I mean,
Right.
that's, excuse me, Mayor, that's a big increase. I mean, if you're talking, you said it was from $40 to $80 every 2 months, times 6 times a year, I mean, that's $240 a year. And that's just based on, you said 10,000 gallons?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's
so
a family of,
I don't know, my bill ranges between like 15 and 20 gallons, 20,000, I guess it just depends. So I mean, that's just a little increase. I don't think anybody is opposed to gradually increasing it over time. Maybe let's propose maybe the 10 to 15% increase and then throw out the millage and see, let the citizens decide, and then we'll see how that comes at. And then if it doesn't, then maybe we'll reevaluate the fees again. That's what I would propose.
I'll make a motion to defer.
I have a motion to defer by Councilman Hewitt. Do I have a second?
Deferring for what, to talk
To-
about bringing down the numbers, or?
Yeah, to have time to amend and bring it back up,
Do I have a second?
unless everyone has time this evening to amend the words and the rates, which I don't think we would be successful in
You're
doing.
looking to actually amend the old ordinance 1752, not this ordinance.
No, this one.
No, the one in
Okay.
front of us tonight.
So we would just have to change dollar amounts, huh?
Right.
I think we need to put a little thought into that. That's just my suggestion.
So I have a motion on the table to defer.
I'll second it.
I have a second by Councilman Johnson. All in favor?
Yay.
Yay.
Any opposed?
Nay.
I have 4 yeas, 1 nay. Ordinance is deferred.
Mary, I just need to go on record saying that I am in favor of the 15% with, not 10, but I'm, 15, and that we, fight to put this millage back out and let people know that, hey, taxation by representation, so please get out there and vote to do something better for your city. Because if not, it's gonna get imposed on you.
Thank you for your sentiments, Councilman Bodier. I believe we're now on to ordinances for approval. If you don't mind, I'd just like to take a comment here again prior to proceeding. I'd like to explain the next two items on the agenda, which pertain to amending the budget for increased insurance costs. There are two ways to amend the budget. Ordinance number 10 provides that the money be taken from the general fund budget. Ordinance number 11 provides that the money be taken from the capital fund budget. If ordinance 10 passes, ordinance 11 can be withdrawn. Madam Clerk, please proceed.
Number 2016-10. The following ordinance was proposed unanimously by the Council of the City of Harahan. An ordinance amending Ordinance 1806, the annual budget of revenue and expenditures for the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2016, for the City of Harahan, Louisiana. And this one's for the general fund budget for health insurance, option number 1.
Ms. Lulu, can you please speak to the next two ordinances?
The city's provider is Humana, and the coverage runs from July through June of each year. In our original budget, we had estimated our health care costs across all departments to total $336,356 for the fiscal year of January through December. There has been an increase in our policy effective July 1st. I had provided the council with a spreadsheet showing by department the original budget of health insurance for the year, where we stand as of June 26, and our estimated cost will be for July through December, which when added together gives us the revised budget expenditures of $358,728 for the 2016 year. This is a $22,372 increase. As resolved at the July council meeting, this additional expenditure maintains the city's past coverage of paying 100% of health insurance for employees and 33 1/3% of health insurance for spouses and dependents. Schedule A relates to the proposed ordinance 2016-10. We are presenting the council of two options for amendments to the general fund. The first shows the increase amounts regarding resolutions 6 and 7 and the health insurance increase only. Option 2 shows the same figures as option 1, but includes the transfer in from the capital project fund to fully cover the increased health coverage without further burdening the general fund. Currently, I have done the books through July of 2016 for the general fund, and we are currently showing a net income of $410,000. As a benchmark, we are looking at 7 out of 12 months, or 58% of the year. This means that our revenues and expenditures should be sitting right about 58%. We did our budget well. Total revenues are right there at 57.7%, and total expenditures are coming in under at 53.6%. So other than any other weird unforeseen situations, the city's general fund is expected to stay right within our budget overall.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to open the public hearing?
Motion.
I have a motion by Councilman Johnston, seconded by Councilman Benton. All in favor?
Yay.
Any opposed? We have 5 yeas, 0 nays. It is now open to public hearing if anyone would like to speak to this proposed ordinance. Up for
Yes,
adoption.
Mayor, I know that the council's going to get tired of hearing from me tonight.
We
as I
are
said.
welcome, we welcome you.
In my
I won't
first
even
address-
ask you to stand up this time.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. I would just implore you to vote for whatever your flavor is, either ordinance number 10 or 11, and support the men and women of the city of Harahan, the employees. We most certainly could use this. I'm always of the opinion that reoccurring revenues should be used to pay for reoccurring expenses, and therefore, if it was my choice, I'd vote for 10, but hey, whatever you need to do, we'd appreciate your support.
Thank you very. Do you have, either way, thank you very much. Okay. Anyone else would like to speak to this ordinance? If there's no one else wanting to speak, Do I have a motion to close the public hearing?
Motion.
I have a motion by Councilman Johnston, seconded by Councilman Benton. We're in this rhythm tonight. All in favor?
Yay.
Any opposed? We have 5 yeas, 0 nays. Public hearing is now closed. Council, discussion?
I just have one thing about this. It was actually to do with this, but it's something on a side note. They had a letter going around from Safe Harahan Group saying that I pushed this off till this month. I did not push this off. It was first reading last month. It had to come to this month. So that was a lie. It wasn't postponed by me or anybody else up here. It was proper procedure that it happens to go through. And that's all.
Thank you for the clarification. Anything else? Anybody?
Yeah, I just wanted to make a comment. I apologize to the employees of the city of Harahan for, I guess, being communicated to that possibly we would not find the funds to make sure that your insurance would be paid at 100% and that we wouldn't support it. So I apologize that you've had to live with that the past few months and worry about your family and your expenses. That's a shame. We all sit up here every day here to support you and the citizens, and we would have never let $22,000 come between you and your medical insurance.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Okay. Do I have a motion to approve this ordinance?
Motion.
I have a motion by Councilman Johnston, seconded by Councilman Wheeler. All in favor of the ordinance?
Yay.
Any opposed? We have 5 yeas, 0 nays. Ordinance passes. The insurance is funded. I congratulate the council and thank you, Ms. Lulu, for your hard work. Thank you very much. Do I have a motion to withdraw?
Motion.
I'm
sorry. Well, I knew you already said 10 and 11 earlier, so.
Right. Do I have a motion to withdraw proposed ordinance? I think it was presented by Ms. Benton. It may have to be withdrawn by Ms. Well, you can just withdraw it.
I'll withdraw it. I'll
Thank
withdraw
you.
ordinance
We don't even need to.
2016-11.
Okay, thank you very
Oh, I
much.
thought it was unanimous, 2016.
Yes, yes,
So
it
we-
was.
Okay, so did we do it right?
Yes, we did it right. How do you like that? Okay, Madam Clerk, I think we can move on to proposed ordinance number 2016-12.
The following ordinance was proposed by Councilman Johnston and seconded by Councilman,
I'll
who would like
second
to
it.
second this one? Wheeler? An ordinance to amend ordinance number 1805.
I want to stop you right there. I want to amend that. Last meeting, we came to the conclusion that was 1805, but it actually is 1806. So if we can, I'll put a motion to change that to 1806.
Second.
Okay, hold on. I have a motion to change the title. City Attorney Burris, can we change the title after it's advertised, or is this okay? I'm asking.
out on a limb here and say that this is a typographical error. It states
Thank
clearly
you
that we're
very
talking about
much.
the annual budget of government.
We like that. That's good.
So it's supposed to change it to ordinance, what now?
1806.
1806.
Okay, 1806. Thank you
Not
for,
substantive. Right.
thank you for that clarification. So I have a motion to amend the title to state that an ordinance to amend ordinance number, instead of 1805, it's 1806.
Yes.
We'll proceed with the vote. All in favor?
Yay.
Any opposed? We have 5 yeas, 0 nays. The title of the ordinance, thus the body of it, is now amended. Thank you.
An ordinance to amend ordinance number 1806, being the annual budget of revenue and expenditures for the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2016, by decreasing appropriations to capital expenditures by the amount of $6,000 and by increasing the appropriation to budget code 010-4-112-40320 relative to police department uniforms and accessories for the specific purpose of the purchase of ballistic helmets and to otherwise provide with respect thereto.
Do I have a motion to open to public hearing?
Motion.
I have a motion by Councilman Johnson, seconded by Councilman Wheeler. All in favor?
Yay.
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 Any opposed? We have 5 yeas, 0 nays. We are now open to the public, if anyone would like to address.
Yeah, as I've mentioned many times in the past, my number one concern is our officers' safety. That's paramount, that's number one. And when I was asked in the last meeting and prior to that, what do we need? One of the things I mentioned, after I came into the department in May of 2014, doing an assessment, we had probably 4, maybe 5 officers less than they had prior to 2014. I'll say it again, I've said it numerous times, I need 2 more police officers. It's not, I'm having to use overtime to bring people in so that they have enough coverage on the street that they are safe. I've got a couple of platoons where they've been working 2 officers at a time, and it's not safe. I need somebody for backup. If one officer's on a call and another call comes out, there's nobody to back the other officer up. We've been very fortunate that Jefferson Parish Sheriff's Office and East Jefferson Levy District have been working with us in the past, and I'm sure they'll continue in the future. But we have a responsibility, I have a responsibility to keep our officers safe. As a result of this past meeting, one of the things that also was mentioned, that we need the ballistic helmets for our SRT team. And I'm all in favor of it, and I appreciate y'all voting for it, but I'll say it again, I need 2 more officers. It's paramount. Thank you.
If there's no one else to speak to this ordinance, do I have a motion to close the public hearing?
Motion.
Have a motion by Councilman Johnston, seconded by Councilman Wheeler. All in favor?
Yay.
Any opposed? We have 5 yeas, 0 nays. Council discussion? If there's no council discussion, we can proceed with the vote on this ordinance to approve. Do I have a motion to proceed with the vote?
Motion.
I have a motion by Councilman Johnson, seconded by Councilman Wheeler, to approve. All in favor?
Yay.
Yay.
Any opposed? We have 5 yeas, 0 nays. The budget is now amended to include this gear for our first responders, our police officers. Ordinances for introduction, first reading.
The following ordinance was proposed unanimously by the Council of the City of Harahan. Proposed ordinance number 2016-13, an ordinance adopting a capital projects budget for the sewage department of the City of Harahan, Louisiana.
Old business.
No old business. New business, number 1, the St. Rita Pecan Festival Committee requests permission to sell beer and wine at the annual St. Rita Pecan Festival Bingo on Friday, October 7th from 5 p.m. until 11 p.m. They request permission to sell beer and wine at the annual St. Rita Pecan Festival on Friday, November 11th from 5 p.m. until 12 p.m. until 12 a.m. Saturday, November 12th from 12 p.m. until 12 a.m. and Sunday, November 13th from 12 p.m. until 9 p.m. Permission to block Berg Street from Imperial Woods Drive to Rayvan Avenue during the hours of operation of the St. Rita Pecan Festival, and permission to block Rayvan Avenue Saturday, November 12th from 11 a.m. till 6 p.m. Rayvan will be used to move the children from the school to Berg Street for their classroom performances.
Council discussion?
No discussion.
Do I have a motion to grant all the above stated requests as stated by the Madam Clerk of the
Motion.
Pecan Festival Committee? I have a motion by Councilman Wheeler,
Second.
seconded by Councilman Johnston. All in favor?
Yay.
Any opposed? We have 5 yeas, 0 nays. Request is granted. Number 2.
Reschedule the Thursday, September 15th, regularly scheduled council meeting to the following Thursday, September 22nd for 7:30 p.m.
This meeting, this current meeting that we're having, was delayed until today, August 29th, due to advertising requirements. We would have needed 2 meetings in August had we not moved. By moving, all the people who attend here tonight had to come for 1 meeting. It saved money and resources for everyone, from transcription to videographer, et cetera. So it was greatly appreciated that we could move that. But because we did, it shortened the time span between this meeting and September's meeting to only 2 weeks. Further, personally, I'm not going to be available for the next meeting. I like to make meetings, and I understand that the world doesn't revolve around me, but I like to be here. And our city clerk is also going to be out on vacation that Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, making it difficult for her to organize the meeting, correct? For that reason, I just sent out an email asking and put it on the agenda for request that the council possibly consider moving our regularly scheduled meeting back 1 week to September 22nd at 7:30 PM. That will then give us 3 weeks between now and the upcoming meeting, and then a month
weeks.
before the
October 20th.
the October, right, the next meeting, pacing us out better. It would be the last move, but it is at the discretion of the council if they wish to proceed or not. Any council discussion?
I'm not going to be at that meeting either. I can't make the
September meeting.
the September meeting, the 15th.
Mr. Burris, I'm out of town as well that week. That's interesting that we're all out of town. I think we have an ordinance that states that we have a council meeting the third Thursday of every month at 7:30. Do we need to do anything with that? Is there housekeeping if we're changing meetings like this? I mean, it makes sense not to have special meetings, but is it okay to change the date and time?
Hold on a second, why don't you take care of some other stuff and defer this and come back?
Okay.
Thank you.
That did occur to me, I mean, I thought that was set.
It does say the
Well,
third Thursday at 7:30.
The Larson Act, just to clarify, because I've looked at, the Larson Act states that we have to, thank you. I think that was
Just have to have one
Well, if
meeting a
there's
month.
no
two-sided compliment. The Larson Act does state that we have
have
to
it right
conduct
here if we need it.
one regular city council meeting
A month.
per month,
Minimum.
and that our ordinance here states that it's the third Thursday.
We set the, yeah, but
Okay, so,
I think you can change the name.
and as a possible solution, if we don't have enough to have a quorum, just to discuss, that
What do you want to look
we can call a special meeting for September 22nd and put all items from today that would be moved on to that next one. And then on the regularly scheduled meeting, it would die, the meeting would die for lack of a quorum. So the city attorney has kind of helped me with this. So do I have a motion to defer
Till-
number 2
Yeah, motion.
until to the last? I have a motion
Motion.
by Councilman Johnson, seconded by Councilman Wheeler. All in favor?
Yay.
Yay.
I mean, defer to the
To
last
defer,
item
right.
under new business.
Right.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify that. All in favor?
Yeah.
Yay.
Any opposed? We have 5 yeas, 0 nays, motion passes. City Clerk, can we move on to 3?
High content ABO application for him or her LLC DBA My Sister's Table located at 6901 Jefferson Highway, Unit A for John A. and Dawn D. Orr.
Chief Walker, have all the requirements for the permit been met by the applicant?
Pending application.
I didn't hear the first part.
All of our background checks, okay. We're waiting for the state police records.
So does that mean we can or cannot proceed?
We normally do it, it comes back negative, then we pull the plate.
Okay, thank you.
And where's this exactly at? I know the address is here, but where?
It's
Okay.
the same in
Okay.
time, it'd be the CC's.
So it's 2 businesses, CC's and My
Same.
Sister's Table?
So I guess we have a council discussion current.
What'd you say?
I said we're just having our council discussion.
Oh. Craig was just asking, it's right there by the save in time, it's gonna be the new CC's.
Are they
Yeah.
the best? They really are the best.
Oh, that's right next door to each other.
I thought it was just the CC's.
Yeah, it says Unit A and Unit B.
Correct.
So there'll be 3 total here.
Yes.
Any further council discussion? Do I have a motion to grant the ABO permit?
Motion.
I have a motion by Councilman Johnson, seconded by Councilman Wheeler. All in favor?
Yeah.
Yay.
Any opposed? We have 5 yeas, 0 nays. Permit is granted. Madam Clerk, number 4.
For high content ABO application for Yes or No LLC, DBA CC's of Harahan, located at 6901 Jefferson Highway, Unit B, for John A. and Dawn D. Orr.
Chief Walker, I'll ask you again if they have met all the requirements of the permit.
It's okay, we just wait for pending school, state police, it's okay, but then pending, state police, it's not fact negative.
Okay, so we can proceed. All right, thank you. Council discussion? Do I have a motion to grant the ABO? Can I have a motion to proceed with the vote to grant the ABO? I have a motion by Councilman Wheeler, seconded by Councilman Johnston. All in favor?
Yay.
Any opposed? We have 5 yeas, 0 nays. The ABO permit is granted. Madam Clerk, item number 5.
Number 5 is an application. It is a high content ABO application for Corner Pocket Management Group LLC, DBA The Curve Bar and Billiards, located at 6231 Jefferson Highway, and for Terrence M. and Shanti A. Smothers.
Chief Walker, have the applicants. Okay. Council discussion?
No discussion.
Then do I have a motion to proceed with the vote to grant the permit? I have a
Motion.
motion by Councilman Wheeler, seconded
Second.
by Councilman Johnston. All in favor?
Yay.
Any opposed? We have 5 yeas, 0 nays. Motion passes. Can I have a motion to reconsider under new business, item number 2?
Motion.
I have a motion by Councilman Johnston, seconded by, should we take a recess?
Okay.
Oh, okay, there you go. I had the answer to this. I have a second by Councilman Benton. All in favor?
Yay.
Any opposed? We have 5 yeas, 0 nays. We will now take up item number 2 under new business.
So yes, section 2-60 of the municipal code says you shall hold regular meetings in the council chamber at City Hall. Shall commence at 7:30 p.m. on the Thursday of each month. But section 273 says you can suspend that. The rules and regulations which have been adopted by the city council as set forth in this article and as reflected in Robert's Rules of Order may be temporarily suspended by a majority vote of all councilmen present. Now, if you want to repeal, alter, or amend that, you'd have to let it lie over for a week at least, but you can suspend it by a majority vote, so.
Okay, so,
Suspend 2-60, and then set the meeting for the.
so can I have a motion to suspend 2-60 for the next city council meeting in September, to move that city council meeting to September 22nd at 7:30?
Motion.
I have a motion by Councilman Johnston, seconded by Councilman Wheeler. All in favor?
Yay.
Any opposed? We have 5 yeas, 0 nays. Motion passes. So that means we have, now we'll be having the city council meeting September 22nd. Madam Clerk, I am going to ask you to ask maintenance to put that, on the,
marquee.
yes, on the marquee. Ms. Johnson's here. I will ask you to make sure that is displayed prominently on the city's website, if you could assist with that. And Madam Clerk, put it on the door. Again, since I'm out of town, I will see if someone can volunteer and be here in case anyone comes inadvertently on the wrong night to see what we can do so that we can just explain that. Okay. What? Mr. Pretlow? Did you? All right.
Just kidding.
Oh. We are now back to address the council. Would anyone like to come up and speak to the council? And let me get my little thing ready again. Please state your name and address. Thank
John
you.
Green, 3 Ren Pass, just a short thing to say. I would think that with such a big project that's supposed to be going on the levee, with materials, sponsoring it or paying for it and putting it out, that you guys would know something about what's going on. I know he took a tour, gave y'all a tour of his facility, and they said they started work on the road in July, and we can't see anything from the levee, and we don't go back there. But you guys should know something that's going on. And I would think with such a large project, there should be some kind of ribbon cutting ceremony or something. So, I mean, how often does this Harahan get such a large project like this? But it's hiding behind the levee, so we don't know what's going on. So y'all be investigating this too, so appreciate it. Thank you.
I just have a quick question about the sewer fees. And when I do the math, I can't get it to work out. I must be doing something wrong. But what is the total amount that the city has to pay back for the $4 million loan?
It's a 30-year loan.
It's a,
It's a 20-year loan.
Pardon me.
okay.
At almost 1% interest.
So just rough numbers. When it's all said and done, what does the city pay back? Is it $5 million roughly?
At the, if you present your questions and then maybe during reports, we can kind of address it so we can wrap it up.
Yeah, that's fine.
Nice.
I'm just
'Cause
wondering.
I'm just trying to.
No, I get it. I'm just wondering, how much per household does it cost? How much per household per month? Or per, really, not necessarily household, but how much per water meter per month does it take to pay back whatever the number is? Is it 5 million? Is it 6 million to cover a $4 million loan? Because it should be more like maybe $6 a meter, right? A month, does that sound about right?
Probably, it's not that, I wish it was that simple. Okay.
I'm sorry?
I'm not trying to interfere on your time, so if you wanna.
No, I mean, I'm just wondering, how does it work out? If it's $6 a month, are we raising the fees enough? I must not be the only one confused about this. If I have a question, I suspect other people may have similar questions.
And Mr. Peppa,
So-
I'm happy to share with you the exhibits so that you can see the numbers. Sometimes
Well,
that'll be easier.
again, I don't think I'm the only one with this
I
question.
agree. It's
So
common.
maybe everybody would like to know, how do you get to the number where we are? Are we just trying to raise the water fees enough to pay back $5 million? Or $6 million? Where are we trying to get to for 20 years? But that's the question.
Thank you. Anyone else? We will now address the council. Secretary's report.
Secretary's report for July, total revenue, $309,447.08.
And reports, Chief Walker? Anything? Okay. Chief St. Cyr?
You didn't do yours already?
Good try.
You see, I have aggravated one of those. I knew it. Okay, for the month of July 2016, we had 7 fire alarms, 3 structure fires, 1 was a 2-alarm. We had 9 medical assist calls, 1 involving CPR. We had 2 automobile accidents with injury. We had 1 without injury. We had 3 investigations, 1 dumpster fire, and 1 power line down issue. I'd also like to report to the council, and we did mention over Facebook on the fire department page, that following the flood to the west of us, the Harahan Fire Department did have several people we were able to send, and we didn't send them actually, they did it on their own, and that's even more amazing. Dave Hopkins, William Cunningham, Scott St. Cyr, and Gary Hopkins. They did use a city truck because I had advised them to. I didn't think they were going to take it. I had advised them to use the city truck. It might help them get to the locations, navigating road blockages and such. And they ultimately did take that truck, but they took a personal boat, paid for the gas themselves, and did it voluntarily, where they went up and were involved in rescue missions in Denham Springs, Gary? Yes, sir. Denham Springs. And part of their assignment, and probably the most important part of their assignment, was to help evacuate one of the senior centers there that housed, unambulatory individuals. Besides doing that, we've done a few other things. Both Dave Hopkins, Gary Hopkins, Brian Hopkins, Mama Hopkins, Miss Gwen, and several other people also went to Baton Rouge, Gonzales, and helped gut some homes on their own time and dime. We did do a toy drive. The one thing in the fire service that we see all too often when homes are destroyed by fire are children that are left with nothing. And I think that affects us the most. We know that adults can be fairly resilient and start immediately thinking about how to rebuild and how to get their lives back on track, but children don't understand. And all too often, they're left with nothing and have to deal with that in their own way. And that was the one thing we felt as a department that we wanted to maybe have an impact on or affect in the children that did lose everything. And so we got together with Livingston Parish Fire Department, and this past Saturday brought 2 truckloads of toys, some new, some used, but all appreciated. And the chief there assured us that he would get those toys to children that need, and that he would do so fairly soon. And we appreciate their efforts, and we appreciate our guys' efforts for even thinking of doing this. And their selfless acts just never cease to amaze me. I'd also like to mention and offer my condolences to St. John Fire Department, who had a loss yesterday. It's hard, something they do on a routine basis, and they work on interstate all the time. And I know that Mr. Spencer Chauvin had spent many a times out there doing the same thing and loved doing his job, and he worked that highway a lot. Unfortunately, yesterday he lost his life. And we stand with that family and would like to say that this man was a hero, not just yesterday, but through his entire career, because just suiting up makes him a hero. I mean, I watch it on a daily basis with our guys. Just responding to calls and doing the things that they do is heroic. Not necessarily just carrying someone out of a burning building, but putting yourself in harm's way in many ways that not most people understand. So, thank you.
Chief, I've told Chief Walker, and I think I expressed earlier, we are so proud of the response from our departments, our first responders, the community, and thank you for the story about the toys and someone losing their life. I think it really helps us focus on what's important. So we're so proud of everyone and reminding us what we should be keeping our eyes on, right?
Yeah, I fortunately get to hang out with a good group of guys on a daily basis. So
I do too.
yes, you do.
Yes, I do.
Thank you very much.
Councilman Bodier?
First of all, I'd like to remind everybody that school's in, so slow down in the speed zones. It's right in front of my house, so I see you guys speeding. I'm gonna have to get Mr. Johnson onto the highway over there to police y'all. Also, I wanted to, my heart really goes out to a lot of people in Denham Springs, Baton Rouge. I have a lot of customers, family, friends that got really affected, got flooded. But I'm really proud of an individual who lives right here in Harahan. He's my partner. His name's Mark Miller, and we own a company together called Corporate Outfitters, and we partnered with Santa Fe Cattle in Hammond, and we delivered 750 t-shirts there as a donation to the Hammond area. And then also in Baton Rouge, we worked with Smoothie King and a guy named Roger Wilder there, and we also delivered 750 t-shirts there. And though I know it's a small part, and we had no heroes like the firemen or the policemen, but to see Louisiana come together under this kind of travesty, even again after Katrina, God, it makes us so resilient, and it makes us so different than everybody else. And I always tell everybody, wow, you know why we're so different in Louisiana? Because we can survive on cockroaches and crawfish if we want to. Thank you guys. Have a good night.
Thank you, Councilman Bodier.
Can I interrupt real quick before the next report is given? Something I forgot to give in my report. Is that the Harahan Firefighter Association is gonna do another fundraiser for cancer awareness. They had mentioned it on Facebook. I think I had passed it along through the city's page, and we will continue.
Can you reiterate the date? Do you,
We can probably get shirts as long as we need them. We may have to do them in a bundle. We're trying to take
we
pre-orders
are about
now.
to put up a larger board outside of City Hall for messaging. So please, I'd like to start taking advantage of it. We potentially might be having that go up, I think, next week. So we can make something big for these special events so that people can see it,
What I would
as well
ask-
as the website.
What I would ask is if anyone is interested in purchasing a shirt, I think they're $15, Gary, correct?
Yes, sir.
$15. We're taking pre-orders now. The association is taking pre-orders now. You can contact them on Facebook, and it's Harahan Firefighters Association, Local 5071.
Come and get my check tomorrow.
Please pre-order. We'd appreciate it because we'd like to give a nice donation to the cause.
Thank
So,
you.
thank you.
Councilman Johnston?
No report.
Councilman Hewitt?
I just wanted to wish my great aunt Arlene Provenzana. She'll be 99 on September 14th, and she lives here in Harahan her entire life. And you look beautiful, and happy birthday to you. We love you.
She does. She does look beautiful. Her picture on that card is gorgeous. We all should strive. Councilman Wheeler? Councilman Benton? Ms. Lulu, so that we are not neglecting the public's questions about those sewer charges. Correct me if I'm wrong in this one so that I can summarize it, because it is very complicated. The sewer fees have to support not only the $4 million loan, the closing cost of that loan, et cetera, the attorney fees, everything. It also has to support the interest, and it has to support the system as a whole, basically. So we have to determine what was our average fees for emergency, et cetera. We kept it to a bare bones number. The number on that, what you're asking to put your arms around, is a bit more fluid than you think, because it can fluctuate if we have a series of collapses that fall outside of the bid process, so we can't have it covered by the loan. So that adds other sewer fees, et cetera. So it's not as a constant as number as we wish. So you can always just say a minimum, 4 million plus interest plus the closing fees, et cetera, is the minimum. But it's gonna be somewhat larger than that. And it's gonna be amortized. It should be amortized over 20 years, but the longer we delay moving forward to that repayment, the harsher the rise will be in rates, because no matter what, we have a drop dead date of payment. At the end of the day, we're still due on such and such a day to have finished paying everything. So that's what we have to keep in mind.
Can we just find out the number, whatever the number
We
is?
can actually share, I've got some exhibits, and I can personally share that with you, okay? Mhm. Even though it's not your report, sure.
Our protective vest, recently we had to replace 9 of them. We've had 7 sponsors come up and pay for 7 out of the 9. They cost about $500 a piece. They got a life expectancy about 5 years. So I appreciate, we'll bring them up in the September meeting and acknowledge the people that contributed. But we've got 7 out of 9 paid for, and we appreciate it.
Also, when asked during a meeting about issues when it comes to address the council, trying to follow the procedures of the meeting, It's very hard sometimes for me not to speak, as everyone knows, maybe I speak way too much. Woods materials, we are actively trying to address issues that come forth. The enforcement is not only on the city side, city hall side, regulatory code enforcement, legally through the city attorney, et cetera, but also through the police department, and on a very rare occasion, I would think the fire chief would step in. So enforcement is approached at a number of issues. By no means are you left alone. We are actively pursuing all our citizens' rights, keeping in contact with the appropriate agencies. Also, to talk about the sewer fees a little bit more. Any further deferment is going to make it very difficult for us to budget for 2017. We will be putting up a proposed budget sooner than you think. It's going to be in a blink of an eye, and it will have to be passed by mid-December, by the December council meeting. So not having numbers that we can put our arms around makes it very difficult to build a budget on with such an important issue and such a large amount. As far as I wanted to also address the chief of police and his concerns about the audit. In 2014, Postal Wade and Netterville, when they did the audit, that means the year-end closes in December 31st. By June 30th, the audit, in the next year, the audit takes place to cover the prior year. At year's end, the Postal Wade and Netterville said, we have liability insurance. We are going to move that liability insurance, and it's a huge dollar amount. It's $200,000 worth of liability in that year. They just moved it. So unbeknownst to the police, unbeknownst to the fire department, the maintenance, et cetera, extra dollars were attributed to their budget, were forced on them without having a budget allow for it. When we reached out to the legislative auditor, they said that is appropriate. Allocation of resources, especially that liability, must be done. So it was an appropriate move. What should have happened was a budget amendment in order to allocate those funds, because it is not fair to make a department look like they're overspent. When they were kidding, they kept their lines very strict, because it was a move they had no knowledge of that was implemented in 14. So in 15, those allocations, we knew when Linda took the position, she looked at the year-end closing in 14 to say, what should I expect in 15? Thus, what we did was put forth a budget amendment. But when she reviewed the way that Postal Wade and Netterville did the allocation, they basically just divvied up those allocations by percentage of revenue. And that wasn't really fair, because it really put way too much liability onto the police department, the fire department, et cetera. What she did was take the actual liability insurance, because we had actuals, and divvied it out the correct way, which meant less of a burden to certain departments, such as the police department. We put forth that budget amendment in order to correct 15, because we needed that budget amendment passed before the audit was closed. Because once the audit's closed, we don't have any power really to make the budget look right. That budget amendment failed for lack of a second. So it never got moved, and those monies were never attributed appropriately to the departments. And I will tell you, it was an unfair event in 14, and I believe in 15, to have that additional burden of looking like there is an overspending when the allocation wasn't passed. We have to just get into a habit of understanding budgets get amended as we go. And we can amend it up to 6 months into the next year in order to correct things. And that's us working together as a team and making sure those things happen. Allocation of resources is another thing that the chief alluded to. This is something most municipalities, most political subdivisions do in order to show what the true cost to run departments are and to put the right numbers in the right places. These are also things that are new to our city. We're getting better every single day with the budget, making it more transparent and making us more educated as we go. So I'm hoping that this system will improve. I think that about wraps it up for me. Thank God. I know that's the expression on everyone's face because it's been a long day, and now we can do pay the bills, and I didn't forget to do that section.
The bills paid in July, the total expenditure is $581,663.71.
There's no executive session. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
I have a motion by Councilman Johnson, seconded by Councilman Wheeler. All in favor?
Yay.
Any opposed? We have 5 yeas, 0 nays. We are adjourned.